Need some suspension work and shocks and brakes, brake pads, lining, steering box, transmission, rear end.
Ka-chow. Just don't see no cars. It works. I love this button.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Movie Car Podcast, recording at you live from the
All
streets
over
across America.
Yeah, across America,
Transcontinental race, is that what they called it?
I think so. I think
we watched Death Race 2000, the 1975 film.
Not the new one.
Not the new one.
Or with Statham.
Which is funny because that's the one that I saw growing up.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
oh,
Death Race
there's
2000.
an old one.
Yeah,
which
this is very different.
This was also,
Yeah.
yes, this was also based off of a book.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So there
All
was a
right, that's
book
good.
written, and then they based a movie off of it, and then now that movie has another spin-off movie, and so.
And that book was A Raisin in the Sun. Okay, not
that
even
book
close.
was of Mice and Men.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
So if you're new to the show,
So, yeah.
thank you so much for checking us
Yeah,
out.
definitely,
We wait
definitely,
10 minutes
Yep.
until giving any spoilers or talking about the movie to avoid any spoilers. And when we do talk about spoilers, you'll hear this sound. The Ecto
Okay, that's
one.
the Ecto one. Yep.
So that means that spoilers will commence at the 10-minute mark or around the 10-minute mark.
Yep,
Really, it's
yep,
around 10 minutes or whenever we
we're
feel
not,
like.
We're not totally
Locked in.
Locked in. And by the way, if I fall asleep,
Yeah, you are tired tonight.
I am so incredibly tired. I mean, if you hear,
Yeah.
that is actually real.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking coffee right now.
I'm just trying to think of other housekeeping things. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, check us out on YouTube. You can see my thumbnail that I draw for each.
Yeah, definitely.
episode.
Are you still
if
in Crayon? This is the year of Crayon, isn't it?
Yes, this is the year of Crayon, the
All right,
bane
so
of my
still in Crayon.
existence.
Yeah,
now.
really?
It was a dumb decision. Every medium so far has sucked.
It's a decision
'Cause
you regret.
markers, well, markers ran out like every 3 episodes. I had to buy a new box of markers.
Were they good markers though, or were they
were,
like
what's the main one? The yellow
Crayolas?
ones.
No. Like
I think it is Crayola.
Marky markers.
Not,
Wouldn't that be great if Marky Mark had
or
Mark
if they
had Marky
did trail
Markers?
mix.
Yeah.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, just like it makes me think of trail mix.
Exactly. See, we could totally
Yeah,
be
we
like
should be marketers.
Marketeers.
Marketeers.
All right.
I think it is Crayola.
It's either Crayola
How
or
do you the thing that I've
Sharpie?
been, no.
Sharpie?
The little things that
Sharpie.
I'm using. No. The little ones that I'm using for this year.
Yes.
Those little objects. What do you call those?
Crayons.
You do 2 syllables. I think I do 1. Crayons.
Crayons.
It's
Well,
a
that's
hot
interesting.
debate on a podcast I listened to, Your Mom's House. That's the name of the podcast.
Oh, that's the name of the. Okay.
Yeah. They're debating, is it crayons or crayons?
The password is crayons. Crayons.
But anyway.
It's a waxy thing. You write with it. It's a crayon. Okay.
Um,
See, that's a whole show thing I'm doing. Shout out to Paul Shin and Craig Lieberman. Wow, we did that fast.
Yeah, that was quick. Under 3 minutes. Oh, just over 3
and
minutes.
Bella's dog.
No,
Jorah's
the dog.
dog.
Yeah.
Jory's dog, Bella.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah. So I've been doing all the thumbnails in crayon. And I scan them in, right, to digitize them.
Yes.
And the crayon has been sticking to my scanner. So I had to take a razor blade the other day.
You have
and
a scanner?
It's built into the printer you bought me.
Oh,
That
that's
HP,
right. Yeah,
the
okay,
top
yeah,
is
yeah,
a scanner.
yeah,
That's
right,
mainly what I use it for because it's been out of ink for about a month.
Well, and that ink is expensive.
Well, yeah, ink right now is like $75, which is like a tank of gas.
Yeah, it's very expensive. It is.
So yeah, so I've been trying to pinch some pennies.
They
and not buy
literally,
ink.
that was the cheapest printer on the face. Literally $24.
Did it come with ink?
Yeah, it did. $24. I know, and if it were still around, but it was a deal. But if it was still around, I would buy a new printer every time and just.
Well, also, but
ink.
setting it up is such a pain. It's
It is
the HP DeskJet
2600, isn't it?
26.
26.
On the 3900s.
I don't know.
I have dyslexia.
I don't
so
know.
The numbers. The numbers,
And all
Mason,
of
what
them.
do they mean?
So we have 3 in the house, and all of them are very similarly numbered.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the,
so
their
I went.
serial numbers are like.
I went through and named them. I did a
Okay,
test
good.
print while you guys
good.
were at
All
work,
right.
and
Yeah.
I just tested one. I was like, all right, I'm sending it to this printer. And then I walked around the house, figured out where it printed to, and named it.
Okay, that's good.
So
that was a good idea because one is like 0HA, then another one is 80A.
Yeah.
It's like
it's
really
they're all
confusing
palindromes of each other,
right? And
which is annoying.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
not
so I did have some pre-show questions.
All right, great. Okay, go ahead, shoot.
Was there ever a time when you were a kid where you were like hoping a technology would be there when you were older? Like, were you ever like, I wish I could bring my phone with me? Like, and then cell phones obviously existed, or like
future technology. Well, probably got a glimpse of it with car phones. When the first car phone, whenever I heard the first car phone, that was pretty cool to me, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I hope that someday I could, use a car phone. But I thought that was only for the elite. That was only for the,
Yeah. Did you ever fathom it going past the car and like not having to be attached to the car? Like we have
no.
I mean, we literally have supercomputers in our pockets right now.
We do. We have, we have more computing power than like the first rocket to the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, it is truly crazy how much.
Snapple fact.
That's pretty much what it is. No, actually, I think Leo said that. I'm trying to think of what
Leo
technology.
got it from a Snapple bottle.
No, he probably did. Yeah, Leo.
Shout out
to Leo. McNamara. So, I'm trying to think of what technology.
Like as a kid, I remember we used to joke around with our family friend Jeff of like having the video games would be just in our eyelids at some point.
Yes, exactly.
And actually, yesterday I saw a TikTok of someone wearing VR goggles in a class lecture.
Yeah.
And his computer screen was in his glasses. So he had a physical keyboard, but was typing into the thing on his glasses. And I'm like, that's pretty close.
That is really darn close. That is very, very close. You're absolutely right. I think, gosh, let me think about that a second. So technology-wise, what did I think of?
Did you ever think flying cars would be real?
When I was younger, no. I didn't think that would ever be a thing. And they do have, they actually have hover cycles now. Have you seen that? They're it's like a quadcopter, but huge. And they will literally cut your head off if you get too close to them because the blades are
right.
Not even.
I don't think that would ever become a reality.
Yeah, so I read an article. Speaking of that, I read an article that said that not unmanned flight, but having mobile, like your own flying car would only happen, or your own flying vehicle would only happen if they perfected self-driving cars. That's what they said. And this was years ago before the self-driving cars came out. And they said they have to perfect that technology first because it has to be safe enough for any jamoke to get in and drive.
And I remember I heard an argument, I forget who it was, but
run into a tree. If it's like my drone, it will always be stuck in a tree, by the way.
And think of how many accidents we have now, car accidents, in just 2 dimensions.
Yes.
Now think of a third dimension. Plus, if you get a flat tire, you're falling... Not a flat tire. That's a poor example. If something goes wrong or you get into a midair collision, then you're plummeting to the earth.
Yeah, there's that. There's that, yeah.
But
it's
I
true.
also always think back to the Future Part 2, where they have a bunch of future tech, obviously. It's 2015 in the movie.
Right, and they have the hover cars and they have...
Well, I always think of the food rehydrator.
Yes.
Do you remember that scene?
I do, where he says a pizza.
Product placement for Pizza Hut. I mean,
right,
oh
exactly.
my God.
Yeah, that was really, really super obvious.
Put a tiny little disc in, and then in 5 seconds, it rehydrates to a full-size pizza.
Yeah, I mean...
That was cool.
It was cool. Technically, there is like dehydrated or a flash frozen... dehydrated like food and stuff that if you add water to it, but it's not that tiny. It's not like it expands like that. So who knows? I mean, they talked about, I always saw the technology of food that was printable. Like you could print food, or food would appear inside a machine. Like you would say, I want a hamburger, and then a hamburger would appear inside the machine. Well, we are actually very, very close to that with 3D printed food.
Yeah. And also, I mean, to be fair, also with DoorDash and Uber Eats, I mean, you can have anything at your door in 10 minutes.
That is true. I mean,
they just have to automate that now a little bit more, and then
well, self-driving cars. You
Yeah,
know,
honestly, So I think
Yeah.
we'll come back to having milk doors. Do you
Milk
ever remember
doors.
milk doors like in the 1920s and 30s? Houses had it was basically a mailbox, but it was built into the wall of your house,
Oh.
and it had a excuse me, I had a weird
Yep.
throat thing. Basically there was a door on the inside and a door on the outside, and the milkman you'd leave like $1.50 or probably it was like a nickel in there, and then the milkman
Yeah.
would come up, open it, take
Right.
the nickel, and put
Oh.
your milk in there, and then
Okay.
close it back up.
All right. Now, I didn't know that even was a thing.
I had a friend a long time ago that had a house built, I think in like the early 20s,
Yeah.
and it had
Yeah.
like a milkman door
A milk
thing.
door. Huh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Wow. I've
So.
never even heard of that before. Did you make that up? Was
No,
that
I
like,
swear
okay.
to God, helped a friend move, and we were
And he had
talking about
the
that.
milk door.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're at 10 minutes, so we'll do spoilers
Okay, we're
for
gonna
Death
do-
Race. Death Race
yeah.
2000. This was
Sorry.
your pick.
It was my pick. It was a movie that I had not actually ever seen the whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
Never
Okay.
watched it the whole way through. Seen bits and pieces of it. My brother George used to think it was hilarious. He thought it was just the funniest thing, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, Death Race, cars that run over people," and he and his friends just thought it was absolutely hilarious. Now you have to remember, 1975, a movie. This is when the movie came out. It was not a movie I could go see as a kid.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say
Not a
you
kid's
were
movie.
9.
I
right?
was-
yeah, you were 9.
Probably so 4. Yeah, I was 9 years old. Correct. I was 9 years old. So it was a year before I started making my own movies, because I started when I was 10. So, at 9 years old, I was not allowed to go in to see an R-rated movie where there's swearing and there's naked people and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So very, very. I didn't even know the whole thing about the massage thing at that one
Yeah.
point. That was so weird and
Yeah.
awkward and bizarre and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of odd. And then the whole thing with Carradine was great, David. And to see David Carradine fighting Sylvester Stallone was worth the price of the ticket because, to see Sylvester Stallone get beat up. Now, this is pre-Rocky.
Yeah,
So
'cause I
he played
noticed-
Machine Gun Joe.
I read that this was made between, I think it was $300,000 and $500,000 to make this movie.
Was it really?
Which that's not a lot of
That's
money. And
not a lot of money
they
at
made
all.
like $5 million in the box office or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and
now that's according to Wikipedia, so take that with a grain of salt. But
I think about 90% of that budget was that airplane. They had that little tiny airplane. That
Oh,
was pretty
yeah.
cool. That was a pretty
it
cool
didn't
little
land
airplane.
on the ground though.
No, it
So
was close.
It didn't
It was
land on
close.
the road. I mean, so
No, on the road.
Yeah.
That was the thing is you have to understand, we've seen so many movies made in the late 70s, early 80s,
where planes just
where
land on the
planes
street.
landed on the road or the street. So that happened in, Cannonball Run, right?
Cannonball Run.
What was the other one that was close?
Well,
that
there was
very
also
similar to
Red
that?
Line from
Yes,
2007.
that's right.
Where the
Yes,
private
exactly.
jet lands on the road.
Was that Red Line? Oh, it was Red Line. Yes, it was. You're
out
right.
in the Las Vegas desert. But yeah, so what did you think now finally seeing it?
It's a very strange movie. It was kind of funny, but it's not like ha funny.
Right.
It's funny because it makes fun of America at the time.
Yeah.
In the 70s, when they thought in the future, there would be this in the year 2000,
Yeah.
which was 22 years ago if you think
Right,
about that.
yeah,
So
which is crazy.
yeah, almost a quarter of a century ago. When they thought
We're slightly, but almost as close to, because this movie was made 25 years.
yeah, 25 years
before
ago.
2000. Now we're 22 years after.
right.
Wait, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And it was, like I say, I have a lot of mouth noise tonight.
Yeah, I always have a lot of mouth noise. I have to edit that out of every review, and it pisses me off so much.
I have to,
It's always
try to watch that. I know because my mouth is right now.
Yeah.
My mouth is so dry.
So,
It's really
but
awful.
did you like it or no?
Yeah, I liked it for maybe the nostalgia of it. As a
Yeah.
movie, I didn't really like it. I mean, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like, I'm for the nostalgia and for the kind of the really goofiness of it. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, that was actually very funny. We used to build dummies. So we'd take some old pants and shirts and we'd stuff them with newspapers and then we'd throw them out in the street.
Yeah.
And our friends, we would film it and we'd run over it with the car because we thought, ha, that's hilarious. for whatever reason, we just thought that was hilarious and funny. And then this whole movie does that.
Yeah, a lot of the kills are like people jumping to the ground.
Right. And you
was
see
like,
they're
oh, okay.
midair, like flipping through the air and stuff. And
Also, did Machine Gun Joe use his machine guns at all?
no, not at all.
Okay.
He doesn't use them at all. In fact, and the funny thing is in his car, he has a really long like sword blade that's coming out of the front. You can absolutely tell that's wood.
Oh,
I mean, it's so you can see the wood grain in one of the shots. It's painted silver, but you can see the wood grain. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and he never uses the machine guns. Those are wood too, I'm sure. They were fun cars to look at for the most part. I don't know why Frankenstein was in like an alligator car or a dinosaur car. That was just kind of odd.
Very strange. Also, my first note, we'll get to my notes here in a second. There's Nazis. There's a Nazi car, which like it's just so weird to me because now like even saying that word.
Right, exactly. You can't say that. Yeah,
seems dirty.
Right.
And yet the 70s were closer to the actual World War II.
That was very odd.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was when I first saw like the guy in the stands waving a Nazi flag, I was
I was
like, wow, okay.
Because also they didn't announce that it was like the third person to pull up was the Nazi car.
Right. Yes.
So I was like,
why does that guy have a Nazi
I was like,
flag?
this dude just brought a flag from home? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly. No, that was weird. And Herman the German, who was the navigator in the car, I don't know if you know who this was.
Aldi Rick Moranis?
Well, that's a good way to put it. But no, Fred Grandy, who was Gopher on the Love Boat. Really, really, really famous character, Gopher on the Love Boat. Okay. That was a TV show.
That's what I meant.
It was a TV show.
Yeah. I don't even know what genre.
Fred
It's
Grandy.
an oil painting.
Well, he was also, I think he became a representative or House of Representatives. I was like a Republican representative after years of being on TV. I think like 7 years of being Gopher, the goofy, wacky, nutty, fun guy that everybody loved on the Love Boat. So very interesting.
Like Robert McNamara was one of the presidents of Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
And then in the next year was just our our Secretary of Defense under the Kennedy administration. Kind of a weird occupational change. But let's get to my notes. I do have some notes. I know you don't, but I do. And my first note was Nazi flag right off the bat and the Nazi character, like I just mentioned. Very strange to see that. It's interesting that Nazis in movies have now it used to be a gag. I mean, the Blues Brothers used it as a gag.
Yeah.
Very
and that was
prominent,
back in the 70s.
Yeah, very prominent in Sounds Like Love. Not Sounds Like Love. The Sound of Music. Sounds Like Love is a totally different thing.
Okay.
That's an old choir concert we used to perform at in high school.
Oh, right.
Up in Minnesota, there was a yearly choir concert called Sounds Like Love.
Yep.
The Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. Yeah, they had the Nazis.
But yeah, I thought that was very odd and not a whole lot of
producers. The whole thing was Nazis.
Oh yeah. I used to have on one of my playlists the song "Springtime for Hitler." Is such a good song from the producers.
Yeah.
A great musical.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting that Nazis have been this punching bag, and now it's sort of the pendulum swinging back to like where you can't really even say that or joke about that.
So Herman the German, getting back to Fred Grandy.
Yeah.
He was a Republican. He was elected to 4 terms as a U.S. representative for Iowa. Imagine being his publicist and going, yeah, you shouldn't show any of those scenes from Death Race 2000. He plays a Nazi.
And then...
And becomes a
murderous Nazi.
A murderous
Nazi.
Who
kills
and
people
then,
with a car.
4 terms as a U.S. representative.
Where? What state?
For Ohio or Iowa.
Oh, that tracks.
Okay.
No shout out to Iowa.
Wow. Ouch. Ouchie.
But yeah. My next note, very Orwellian / 1984 vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I really love. I love retrofuturism. It's one of my favorite genres of anything. And I understand that this isn't like purposeful retrofuturism, but I guess now it is, where it is it's what the past thought the future was going to be, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So like when looking it up, like if you actually Wikipedia retrofuturism, there's like a picture of a like high-speed 200-mile-an-hour express train that goes across the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But it looks like it's like concept art. It's old.
Yeah,
It's
right.
retro concept art essentially.
Yes.
And it's like you'll be able to get to New York in 4 hours across this transatlantic, whatever.
Yeah.
Which I just think is so cool, and it kind of feeds into like steampunk too. The style of steampunk.
Okay.
What?
How would you make a train across the
Well,
ocean?
it was a boat, but it looked like a locomotive
okay.
because like locomotive technology was like
Gotcha.
prominent right now.
Okay.
It's like what would be an equivalent? It's like making some new technology. Like in the future, some new technology is gonna be made out of iPhones or something like that.
Right.
It was
exactly.
it takes the technology of an era and makes it like a future thing. Like steampunk is all that way. It's like 1800s technology, but like modern ideas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So like a computer that runs off of steam and is
Oh,
built
yeah,
out of
yeah.
copper
Right.
pipes
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that was a big appeal to me.
Yeah,
there's a
it's very
great
cool.
shot. I assume they used paintings. I don't know how exactly they did it, but there's a great shot when the race is starting and you see all these buildings in the background, which you never see ever again.
I know. You don't know.
But they're all like curved and different colors and very like 1950s future, very Jetsons in the background.
By the way, we watched this on Canopy. Shout out to Canopy.
Shout out to Canopy.
So Canopy, I think .com. But the thing about that was it's so funny because it was absolutely a matte painting, and if you watched it carefully, because everything's going on in the foreground, so you don't really notice it, but in the background, and because this was a cleaned up copy of the movie.
Yes, we also watched in HD version.
Yeah, it was really like sharp and clean and all of that, so that was really cool. But in the background, you see the edge of the stadium and where the matte photo, the matte painting is, and it's moving.
Oh,
and it's like moving around. It's kind of like going like, so it's like, okay.
Yes, so we watched this on Canopy. I do want to point out it is free on YouTube. Someone ripped the
yeah,
whole
I
movie
guess so.
and put it on YouTube. However, it's like I told my dad here, it looks like someone ripped it off a VHS that was in a house fire. It's such low quality.
Yeah, and run
but
over
you
a
can,
degauser.
What?
Run over a
Oh, yeah.
degauser.
I thought you were talking about something about our equipment. If
No.
you've heard our previous episodes,
we've had some issues.
a love-hate relationship with our equipment, and sometimes it fights back, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly.
Is your phone on? Just a black screen? Oh,
Well,
okay.
no, I actually took your suggestion and I put a sleep mode on it.
Oh yeah, because it's not good for your screen to just.
No, and so I did
Leave
that,
it
but
open.
then what it does is it dims. It's
yeah.
kind of like a warning, and then it
Yeah,
goes off.
okay.
So anyway.
But anyway, getting back to my notes because I'm more important.
Wow! Yikes!
I
Okay.
thought it was very funny and interesting.
Did you like? I mean, that was the whole thing. I didn't even ask
for the
you.
movie?
Did you like it? Yeah,
I liked
overall.
it. I did.
did?
I enjoyed it. I think it does part of that nostalgia slash. I don't know. I look more at this like an art piece or a piece of literature.
Yeah.
Like a time, not a period piece per se, but like it was a part of 70s culture. And it was so interesting to me that this is before the future was super dark. I mean, yes, they talk about how the American government has gone totalitarian and, obviously the death race isn't a bright and cheery idea, but all the colors were vivid. It's not Escape from L.A. That's what I always think of.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
not
that's not a
Terminator
dark
Judgment
future.
Day.
Right. It's not dark future.
I'd be very curious to see if anyone can pinpoint when art and movies started going towards this grim future, because now every movie that takes place in the future is dark and grim, and it's post-apocalyptic, and it's this hellish landscape. Where back in the 50s, you had like the Jetsons. They were super excited about the future, and there was a what are you doing on your phone?
I'm looking. I think it was done. This movie was done by Roger Corman.
Oh, okay.
Who did a lot of very
I thought you were just
campy.
texting.
No.
I thought you just, I don't
I'm
know.
not paying attention to this podcast at all because that is more important to me.
Well, you said you were
Texting.
tired and
I'm
you're
gonna-
just looking at your phone.
I'm going to
so-
play Sudoku or Sudoku.
Maybe.
Or Sudoku. How do you? I don't know.
Sudoku?
Sudoku.
Whatever.
Sudoku.
You were the one that played it. I don't know.
Sudoku or Wordle or something. I'm playing that right now.
But anyway,
All right,
this was
yeah.
like still kind of a bright and cheery
It was.
future.
There was.
Where just a decade later, we got movies like Escape LA. We got The Running Man. We got is it The Running Man or Running Man?
I think it's
Either
just
or.
Running Man.
We got Blade Runner. I mean, talk
Oh,
about
that's
dark
a
and
very
dingy.
dark. Yeah, that's a very grungy future. A lot of the films, especially in the 80s, mid to late 80s, I would say, are grungy futures. Alien, which is kind of its future too. But yeah, you're talking about. You're absolutely right. You're talking about a very dark future.
If we go back to the 50s, it was like, see, we're gonna be in flying cars and
Right.
like all that stuff, and every house is gonna have a
it's
television in the wall, and
right.
and like I always bring back to the
Kind of
Jetsons, really,
kind of
which
the Disney World kind of
no
thing
one-
of the future.
yes, Tomorrowland,
Tomorrowland,
literally,
yes, exactly,
Exhibit
yeah.
A
Yeah,
is
yeah,
Tomorrowland
right.
at Disney,
Right. Yes.
Um,
Exactly. And it was more bright, and
and everything
there's
was
hope and blah
curved
blah
and
blah.
smooth and-
everything was curved and smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which they actually kind of got right because all the kids' toys became curved and smooth because they didn't want kids chipping their teeth or
Oh,
cutting
yeah, or
themselves
cutting-
or getting cut on metal like we did. We had a rusty metal swing set in the backyard.
yeah.
And we got hurt and we bled and we liked it. And got a lot of tetanus. No,
they did. I mean, the building architecture definitely is very sleek.
Yeah.
Definitely
yeah.
very different from like the brutalism of like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was
driving
very-
through Schaumburg
Yeah,
on 294 going up to Milwaukee.
Yep.
There's a bunch of rows and rows and rows of these office buildings, and it's all hard concrete, hard angles. It's just very brutalist, which was like a very 80s to 90s corporate America, and you could just imagine like those thick cloth desk chairs that they had, and like
all that stuff. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Exactly.
very very
yeah.
interesting. There, getting on with my notes here. Oh, so anyway, the first death spouse got an apartment and a 50-inch TV.
Oh,
do you remember
right.
that?
Yeah. I
That
do
was
remember
very
that.
dystopian. Where
That
she was like,
was
"Oh,
very
your
much so.
husband was just killed. He was
Yeah.
the first." They never call him kills. It was points. He was
Points,
the first
exactly.
points
He was
of the
the
race.
first points,
So
and
you'll
yeah.
get a 2-bedroom apartment in the city, and you get a
it's-
free 50-inch TV, and you'll be a guest of honor at next year's race.
And it's so funny too because that woman who interviews her, her last name is Pander. Like
Oh,
you,
really?
Like you pandered to the
Yeah.
audience. It was Pander, and she kept saying, "A dear friend of
That's
mine."
I have another note
Okay,
here
yeah.
where literally
Everyone.
every person she introduces, she's like, "Oh, this is a dear friend of mine."
Right,
Which,
exactly.
like, honestly, I'm sure that was a thing in the 70s too.
probably, yeah.
But now I feel like every like vlogger
Yeah.
or influencer or talk show host is like, "Oh, this is my good friend." And
Right.
it's like you don't know
Yes.
this person.
Yeah,
this is a PR
exactly.
stunt. So
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure.
Which,
it
was kind of good.
I don't think that was predicting the future. I'm sure that was already existing with like the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah, I
in
think
the
so to
70s
a certain degree. And then
yeah.
you had the other. If you want to talk about the broadcasters,
Yeah.
you have then the other guy who sounded like Walter Cronkite. And this is the way it is,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and he's very dry and very serious and very like, and he's going to do this, and then you have the one guy who's like the crazy DJ, and actually in real life the guy was a DJ back in the 70s.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, great kill, awesome kill, neat
Yeah,
kill.
yeah.
And it was like, whoa.
Very much a hype man. Which
Oh
was
my
interesting.
gosh. He was like, I think he was called the real Don Steele. And I think that he was a DJ, Don Steele. I think that's what I heard, but or read on IMDb, which in no way we are not sponsored.
Oh
by,
yeah,
but
not sponsored by at all. But yeah.
So it was very interesting. And then so the mix of the three broadcasters was fun. I think that was a great way to do
Yeah,
it. I think it was
definitely.
really neat.
My next note: Sly socks a girl.
Yes.
He straight up punches a girl in the face. Sorry for popping my pee.
No,
but
it was he
punches her in the. I can't pop
the face.
He literally.
He does actually punch her in the face.
Also,
It's
by the way,
really
she's
awful.
naked because there's this whole naked massage scene, which is weird.
Right. So he punches a naked woman
In the face.
Is in the face. So I don't think if he ever like. I don't think that. Well, that's so bizarre. That is so bizarre to me. So at one point in the race, we have to explain this. I think for those people who haven't seen it, at one point in the race, everyone stops, and it's like a 12-hour stop, and everyone, all of the racers and their navigators, are given a massage, but they're all on these tables in the middle of this giant empty building.
Yeah,
in this giant empty complex.
It's like
and
the Stevenson Center. It's
right.
like
yes,
it's
exactly.
like where they host the
it's
car
huge.
show. Yeah,
right. And it's enormous, and there's nothing in there. It's empty, and they're all naked, laying face down, naked on the tables, and it's like you're like, well, okay, number one, I don't want to see this, but then like they have all of the they're doing like a whole scenes and bits, like the whole thing. I mean, it's actually pretty long. And then Sylvester Stallone is talking to Annie, who is she's like the protagonist. She's with Frankenstein. Frankenstein is played by David Carradine. He's the main protagonist in the story, and his navigator is Annie. Annie is a rebel, and she wants to try. Her group wants to try to end this race. So okay, but like. It was just such a weird scene.
Yeah,
I thought it was odd.
The nudity was a little excessive.
Yeah,
but I think also we've seen other movies on this show that have had like the 200 miles an hour comes to mind. So there was a lot of nudity in this movie.
Yeah.
Heads up. Now 31 minutes.
Right.
in.
Sorry. It's not really a kids movie.
Yeah,
so yeah.
There's definitely a lot of nudity.
Yep.
But also following that, there's like a presumed sex scene.
Yes.
Between the co-driver and Frankenstein.
So Frankenstein and Annie, yeah.
Yeah, and so Frankenstein, the main character, I would say.
Yes, main character David Carradine.
He's like
played by David
He's
Carradine.
a two-time winner. He's won the race before.
Yep.
He
Yep.
had his leg blown off in 97,
Right.
his arm blown off in 98.
His other leg.
His eyes were gouged out in 99. So
supposed to be put back together.
Supposedly half his cranium's gone. He's made mostly of plastic and stuff.
Which I thought is actually very funny. It's so campy. Yeah.
But then he disrobes. Not a scratch.
Not a scratch. He looks perfect.
So I wrote down here, a lot of faith in reconstructive surgery.
In the future, Swedish doctors, I think, is what they were talking about. Yes.
Also,
put him back together. Yes.
Going with this, a later note of mine, for how scarred he is, and like trying to stay low key, boy, is he taking his mask off a lot. Like every waking moment, he's like, "Are you sure you want to see it?"
Right.
At the end of the movie, they should have been like, "Yeah, we saw it." Like
everyone saw it.
We saw it all the time. So he takes his like leather mask off, and he's Which also, by the way, did you notice his face was way more scarred when the mask was on?
Oh yeah.
And then he takes the mask off, and he's not scarred at all.
So what they had was, I noticed that, and because this is a really good version of the movie and very clear, you could tell
it was a latex thing.
Yeah,
right?
there was it was like a fabric, a piece of fabric where they cut out where the eye was, and then the fabric itself had a print on it that looked like a scarred eye, so that when he pulled the mask off, it was perfect.
The scar went with it.
The scar went with it, so he could take off that mask very easily, and there would be no issues. He was perfectly fine. He was nothing. So I think that was actually very, and it was very funny. Did you notice the bolts coming out of his helmet?
Oh no, I didn't.
There's bolts,
obvious,
like for the Frankenstein. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
which I always thought was funny, because we always joke around like he has a robotic arm, and it's like, oh, he can shift in 0.2 of a second now.
Yeah,
and it's like, come on, that's like it's literally like the $1 Million Man.
No,
or
I know
whatever.
exactly. And that was
But my last note here was that this movie's oddly anti-French.
Yes.
I don't understand where any of that comes from. The French have never done anything to us.
No.
And it is very interesting where they're like, oh, the French are messing up our phones and all this stuff. Which, like, as of right now, there's
messing
an
up our
imminent
economy.
threat of Russia, messing with our phone system and our internet system. That's a real thing nowadays. So that was very interesting. But also, like, Do you remember? I don't know when this was. I feel like this is when I was a kid, but there was like a movement to call them freedom fries instead of French fries. Do you know why that was? I don't remember the reasoning.
Okay. I'm not sure I completely remember, but I do know that yes, it was freedom fries, and yes, it was, I believe, shortly after 9/11,
Why
2001.
the French didn't do that?
No, but I think it was like we decided to like do the war on terror thing and invade Iran or Iraq and go after bad guys. And then I think it was like the French did not allow us to. We were going to fly over there, and the French basically said, no, you can't fly over our country. We're not going to let you fly or land your planes here at all. And then we're like, oh, the French are not for us. They must be against us.
We'll get back at them when we eat fries.
Right. So we'll get back at them when we eat fries. We're not going to call them French fries.
Yeah.
We'll call them freedom fries. Oh, my gosh.
Who cares?
But
yeah, so like in the movie, the president blames France for this like airstrike and for the telecommunication interference.
It's internal rebels that are doing it, but they blame an external country
because they don't want people to know that people are rebelling.
Right, internally. So that was kind of an interesting, it was a kind of an interesting note on a political note, I would say.
Just
so
strange. I
very
guess we
strange.
Didn't have too many big enemies in the 70s.
I don't know.
Or maybe they were like anticipating that we'd be upset with the French.
Right, exactly.
25 years
Somehow
later.
the French would.
I don't know. But I thought that was very odd. I was like, well, I guess this was this is post-Cold War, so why wouldn't you immediately assume the Russians?
Well, no,
this is
it's
post-Red
not really,
Scare, no?
No, I mean, I remember. The Cold War went on for a long time through the 80s, I believe. So
I thought it was 60s for some reason.
No, that was like.
Well, the Cuban Missile Crisis was in the 60s.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about history and stuff. I don't pay attention to anything. But
I took the side mirrors off my car because I don't look back.
Wow.
Anyway,
did you notice too? By the way, as I was thinking about it, that they say at least 3 times instead of saying something else, they say "Holy Chrysler."
Oh yeah,
they say it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Holy Chrysler! You took him out, and it's always like the kills were always goofy, like wacky.
Yeah.
Like the people were morons.
Also, like who let the kid play in the street when
with a tire, a full-size tire,
which was like kind of a throwback to like the 1800s,
right, the kids
where he's
with
like
the stick
hitting
in
the
the
stick
tire.
in the hoop.
Yeah, right.
Which I thought was kind of funny and like a new kind of gag at that. And then I did think to myself, I was like, oh, probably at this time there were like a handful of people that were still alive from the 1800s. In the 70s, I mean, your grandmother was born in the 1800s, right?
No,
your great grandmother.
My great grandmother was
because we have that 1979 home video where she was born in like what 1888 or something.
Yeah, I think so. It was either that. I mean, I think she was born. Well, here's the thing: she was born before Kitty Hawk, which is the Wright brothers, and
before 1903.
So before 1903, she was born. I think she was born in 1901. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
She was born before the Wright brothers took off in the Kitty Hawk airplane, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And she lived to see the space shuttle.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
That is an amazing. If you think about that span of time, the technology from Kitty Hawk. I think I'm saying that right?
Yeah, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Yeah.
First in flight on all of their license plates. First
By the
in
way,
flight.
shout out to the people in the South because
also,
I love the Southern accent.
I love North Carolina too. Asheville is one of my favorite spots.
Is it? Yeah.
Ohio put the Wright brothers glider on their
They did?
On their new license plates.
Yeah.
Because I guess the Wright brothers were born in Ohio or something.
Right. Okay.
They put it backwards.
No.
The plane is facing the wrong way because it has this like weird stabilizer thing at the front.
That's the front.
And everyone thinks that that's the back, and they put it on backwards. I don't know
the
if
stabilizer was for the front. Yeah, that was.
But anyway.
All right.
Also, Studebaker was founded in the 1850s. Did you know that?
I think you mentioned it once.
They originally built carriages and stuff. I'm supposed to, after this, in between the time of recording and when this will come out, I'm supposed to take a ride in a 1924 Studebaker. So I was doing some research on it. But yeah, what's up? Oh, you're
No,
muted.
I know. No, I'm actually looking at the phone because it looks like Nick is stuck.
My brother takes the train in and out of work and doesn't have a car, so we have to pick him up.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay, that's odd. Okay, never mind. Okay,
I mean,
just side note here.
Yeah. Also, side note, I wanted to get out there. We're recording this before the Oscars, so I hope nothing controversial happens. We're looking forward to a great, fun, easy listening evening with no aggressive actions at all. And also a different side note, I love The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Too soon?
I hope nothing happens. No, this is obviously after the Oscars, that whole scenario.
Yeah, that was a very, very bizarre
just
show.
strange. Well, the reason I bring it up is because
straight up bizarre
right
show.
now I'm actually watching. There's a guy, not right now, before we started filming. I'm watching a YouTube video while talking.
We don't pay attention to this podcast
we actually
whatsoever.
don't even
we
look
just...
each other in the eye. There's a guy who's doing the body language of Will Smith. He's like a professional body language
really?
person. And he said that it was real. It wasn't staged.
I think it was definitely real. Just a side note here, just really fast. Because of the look, the expression on Chris Rock's face when they did the freeze frame after he got slapped, it looked like he was really shocked at what just happened. I don't know. That was way too. I mean, if that wasn't real, then he deserves the Oscar. So I mean, it's like, because that was so real. Yeah. That was so in my book.
But anyway, getting back to Death Race as we digress a lot. I don't even remember what we were talking about. To be fair,
I was gonna say I'm gonna have to go all Will Smith on you, but that's too soon. All right.
So I do have stuff about the cars, but I do want to mention something beforehand because it really grinds my gears.
All right.
I talked about, I wrote down here. It was reviewed by someone that I really, really take offense with.
Who?
Not offense
What?
with. Roger
What?
Ebert.
Roger Ebert reviewed this movie?
Yes. Can I be honest? I hate Roger Ebert.
Yeah, that's fine. You can say that. I've met him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we met him.
At the film festival.
Well, we met most of him. He was missing a jaw at that point. It scarred me.
Very frightening. That was very frightening.
I was 11 years old. We met Roger Ebert, and he had a prosthetic jaw because he lost it to cancer. Very tragic.
Yeah,
very sad. No one deserves that. But it really scarred me.
Yeah. By the way, his wife is an awesome person. She's so cool. Okay. She's a very nice, very cool person. But and I think her name is Star. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he was so nasty all the time.
Yeah. So I
put
so here,
angry with all his reviews.
He
and
gave
stuff.
this film 0 stars in his review.
Wow.
Deriding it for violence, and saying that. And was scalding it for its appeal to small children, I guess. However, during a review of The Fast and Furious, Ebert named Death Race 2000 as part of a great tradition of summer drive-in movies that embrace the summer exploitation mentality in a clever way.
When was that review done, that second review?
That was in 2002, 2001.
Okay, because he had a different look at life.
Yeah.
After a certain period of time, it was like, okay, he kind of like...
Well, but then he says he did not find the film as awful decades later as he did in 1975, but he also refused to go back and change his original review or change his feelings and not give it a 0-star rating. So I just think that that's so stupid. Like, as a reviewer myself, first of all, I think there's a lot of reviewers out there that pride themselves on always being negative. It's very strange.
I know.
There's like,
but
nothing's ever up to snuff.
Well,
there's a Anthony Fontano. He reviews albums on YouTube.
Yeah.
He never loves anything. Like everything he reviews, he's like, this isn't as good as the last one. 6 out of 10. You know, he always gives these like mild to negative reviews. And it doesn't give me any trust.
I give him
in
a
them.
2 out of 10. I give him a 2 out of 10 as a person. No, but that there was a cartoon called The Critic.
Yeah.
And it was really based on the character. Actually, it was voiced by John Lovitz, I think.
Okay.
and it was really the character looked like a cross between Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. It was like a cross between the two, and he was so negative all the time.
Yeah.
About every movie. Like, in fact, the opening is it stinks. I mean, and that was like every.
The reason I bring this up, and it strikes such a chord with me, obviously I review cars. That's my job.
Yeah.
And people will get on my case. Like, actually, the video that came out today, spoiler alert, because now it came out like a month ago when this comes out.
Well, okay, yeah.
It was a Mitsubishi Outlander, a 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a full-size SUV.
Yeah.
I hated that thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Awful car.
Yeah.
It wasn't built well. They have tons of issues.
Yeah.
And I said in the video, I got out of the car, and it's just me standing next to the car, and I'm just like, who buys these? I called it the Long John Silvers of cars because
okay.
who have you ever seen go into a Long John Silvers?
I have.
Yeah, I went with you, and the only reason we went was just to see what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
We were like,
we
we never see anyone go in here.
But you remember when we went into Long John Silver's? Remember there was like cobwebs in
There's
the corner.
cobwebs between the salt and pepper shaker.
Yes. Between the
I mean,
salt
it was like
and
two
pepper.
little cobwebs, but like
between the salt and pepper shaker, does that tell you how often people picked up or refilled the salt and pepper shakers? A cobweb.
Yeah.
Okay, so true.
I gave this really negative review of this Mitsubishi, and I was like, I would never tell anyone to buy this. I got a couple of comments that people are like, "Oh, you just hate everything. Like you're just being negative," and it's like
that is so not true of you.
Do you know? Like I was like, go watch my Nissan Skyline GTS 25T review. It's a 1993 Nissan Skyline.
That is a mouthful.
And I know. That's why I paused. I was like trying to get it right. It's me banging gears going through Asheville, North Carolina. Shout out to Asheville, North Carolina again. And I am just grinning. I'm giggling the whole time.
You have a lot of fun on your reviews. People always say that when they hear you laugh in your reviews, it's like it's very funny.
Up
it's great
for the car.
It's great. Yeah, definitely.
So I just have never understood. And there's a lot of reviewers out there that are always like, this car's garbage. This car's that.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, there has to be a good thing.
Yeah.
There has to be.
Even, okay, so for us in reviewing movies, I mean, even the worst possible movies, there are good things. We've even said that. Yeah, we can not like movies and stuff like that. But okay, perfect example is Rush. We talk about Rush. You loved it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But cinematography, awesome. So yeah, I mean, but I get you where people are like, oh, this movie sucks. It's all awful.
Or the other thing that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
There's a reviewer on TikTok.
Yeah.
Or
Tim Tom.
Which
we are officially. I did. I saw
your tweet.
Yeah.
I tweeted that my phone always autocorrects TikTok to Tim Tom's.
Tim Tom. So I'm making it Tim Tom's.
I'll text my girlfriend, hey, did you see the Tim Tom I sent you? And it's terrible.
Exactly. So there's a reviewer.
There's a reviewer.
TikTok,
They review cars. Yeah. They review a lot of nice cars too. But they don't own a car, which I think should not be allowed.
No.
Because
sorry,
they made a video and they're like, because someone was like, oh, what car do you drive?
Right.
And they're like, oh, I don't own a car because manufacturers send me a new car each week that I don't really need one. And I'm like, so then you don't have any skin in the game.
No, none.
Like, because I always think, because I have a car payment right now,
absolutely,
which is not great.
Absolutely do.
But now I'll drive, because my car was $25,000.
Yeah.
I'll drive an equal car for $25,000, and I can put myself really in my own shoes and say, would I pay $400 a month for this experience?
Yes.
Sometimes it is yes. Sometimes it's gleefully yes. A lot of the times it's no.
Really? Yeah.
I just think, I think the car that I got was in the upper echelon of cars for that price.
I mean, it's right. But you're right. You have skin in the game. You actually have a car. You have car payments. And, I mean, it's great. I totally think that Mazda should jump on you for the fact that they should support you because of the fact that you drive a Mazda 3 out of all the cars.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the cars that you've reviewed, you own a Mazda 3.
But yes, and I do think it has the nicest interior quality. I haven't had any issues with it. It's not a CVT, which a lot of cars are CVTs now, continuously variable transmissions. Honda Civic's a CVT.
Oh, okay.
The Corolla, I think, is a CVT now. So at least cars in that segment, they all have these continuously variable transmissions.
So here's the getaway scene.
God, in a Subaru or a new like CRV or Honda Civic, it would literally be like, get him.
That's it. That's all. That's it, the whole thing. Which, by the way, speaking of that,
Yeah.
they did my favorite pet peeve in this movie.
Oh, yeah, getting back to the movie, yeah.
On a dirt road, you heard squealing on a pavement. You heard.
I never noticed that,
Yeah.
but you
I always
pick that
notice
out.
it. For one bizarre, not for one.
What
but
I
for
did
some bizarre
notice,
reason.
and we'll get to the cars here in a second, is that those cars were getting chucked around in the dirt.
Big time.
And I was thinking
big
about it.
time,
I'm like,
yeah.
I wince when I drive over
Big
like
time.
potholes in
Yeah.
my car. They
Those
were
things
just
were
tossing
yeah.
these things.
Those cars were, they got beat up
So
pretty good.
let's get to the cars.
All
We're
right, let's
almost
just-
50 minutes into
All right,
the
let's
car show.
do it. Let's do it.
So the cars were designed by Dick Dean, Richard Dean. Have you heard of him?
No.
You might in a second. So
Okay.
So
well, I just heard about him now.
he was always into customizing
Not
cars.
George Barris.
He met George Barris in 1959. That was
Are you
literally my next
serious?
line. And he worked for George Barris.
Oh no.
So
Okay.
he met George Barris in
we have a lot of fun with
1959.
George Barris, yeah.
And George offered him a job. If he came to L.A., he
Yeah.
offered him a job building cars.
Really?
So
that's
he
cool.
worked under
Yeah.
George Barris for
Okay.
years and years
All
and
right.
years.
So that makes sense now. Okay. I was joking around, but we love George Barris. We love to make it's not making fun of him, but it's so funny. His character later on in life, he was signing every car.
So
he came up
we have
against.
like a skewed view of George Barris
do.
because there's a local car museum that
Yeah.
has a bunch of movie cars.
Yeah.
And he signed all of them.
All of them.
Cars that he didn't even design.
We mentioned that, like he's out in the parking lot signing,
Yeah.
Buick Centuries or whatever. It's
He's
like,
just like through like just signing whatever
Kia
hood.
Sorrentos. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've heard of these cars, but he's done a couple of other cars. So
All
he
right.
did his first major film cars.
Yeah.
Were these death race cars.
Were
here
they
in
really? Okay, that's cool.
1975.
Yeah.
He also built remote control Ford Explorers for Jurassic Park.
Oh. Okay.
He also,
I've heard of Jurassic Park, by the way.
Yeah. He also designed. It was it's called the Ecto 1 for Ghostbusters.
Are you serious?
Yes.
He did the Ecto 1?
He did the Ecto 1.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool.
He did the Flintstones car.
No.
And you'll get a kick out of this
Yeah.
one, which we'll see later this summer.
Yeah.
He did the prop vehicles for James Bond's Diamonds Are Forever.
Wow.
Which I don't know which one Diamonds Are Forever is.
Diamonds Are Forever. That takes place in Vegas. There's the moon car that goes through. Yeah. And the
not
Mustang.
Circus Circus.
Yeah, Circus Circus.
Oh,
and the
no
Mustang.
way.
Oh, yeah, that's all Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah, so he did that movie as well.
Yep.
And I said that because the Peterson has the James Bond exhibit that we'll be seeing later this year.
Yes.
Super excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, he
All right,
has
so that is
quite
so cool.
the
That is so cool.
repertoire of vehicles under his belt.
Yeah, very cool.
And I believe he passed away in 2015.
Wow.
It's quite a shame, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, also, I totally forgot about this. He helped design the Bricklin. Do you remember the Bricklin?
Yes.
So the
He
Bricklin,
did?
the Bricklin SV1, which was the safety vehicle one, and the only reason I bring this up is because I'm actually reading a book about Malcolm Bricklin right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's called The Yugo, The History of the World's Worst Car, or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're reading that. That's awesome.
To be fair, I've read like a chapter a week over the last like 2 months.
Fine. Doesn't matter. You're reading.
I'm reading.
It's good.
I'm learning to read at age 24.
They don't teach that in school
But
anymore.
so
All right.
Malcolm Bricklin, crazy guy.
Really?
I mean,
yeah.
he's gone bankrupt more than anyone else I've ever known. Or not, I don't know him. Still alive. Apparently, I have a friend that knows him and says he's a very kind guy.
Oh,
But
good.
he's 100% a hype man. And like he can find funding wherever it is. And then he bought this. So he's responsible for bringing Subaru to the U.S. He was the first person to import Subarus.
Got it. Okay.
Didn't make any money doing it.
All right.
Sold the company off, and then the second guys made Subaru USA what it is today, which is it was such a failure that there was the Subaru 360s, which were these tiny little K cars about the size.
Never heard of them.
About the size of the seat you're sitting on.
Oh wow!
I
That's
should be.
tiny,
I'll
tiny
be
seat.
reviewing one later this year. My friend picked one up. Who knows Malcolm Bricklin?
Wow.
And the cars were selling so poorly.
Yeah.
I think I told you this, that on the boat over, They just
You
pushed.
did tell
they just
me.
pushed him off the edge.
They pushed him off
because
yeah.
it was cheaper to
Dump
just
them in the
dump
ocean.
them and turn the boat around than it was to take the loss
Oh my god.
when they got to the U.S. That's how That's how little. You know what else happened?
What?
Malcolm Bricklin started a go-kart company
Oh.
that and he had these go-kart tracks. The go-karts were the Subaru 360s. So you literally could go race mini
cars. Wow, that's
they had,
fun. That's awesome.
I believe they were 2 cylinders.
Okay.
They made like 15 horsepower or something, but they were
right.
cars. They had headlights and turn signals and washers and all that stuff.
Yeah. Wow. 15.
No seatbelts. But yeah, so Malcolm Bricklin, he also did the SV1, the Bricklin SV1.
Okay.
Which, excuse me, I forgot. Dick Dean helped design. It was supposed to be a safety vehicle one. It was a fiberglass car. Kind of looks like a DeLorean, kind of.
All right.
And then Malcolm Bricklin also later went on to what my book is about, is he was responsible for importing the Yugo.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a whole backstory on that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
right.
thought that was super unique. That this guy had his hands in so many different automotive designs. Especially, I mean, the Ecto one we use as our siren. I mean, that's him.
Yeah,
So
that's so
super
cool. That car is such an iconic, wonderful
Which
car.
now George Barris did sign the Ecto one.
He did at Volo, so yeah.
I guess it's like his apprentice made it. I guess so. Maybe I don't know.
I know.
But let's get to the cars themselves. So Frankenstein's alligator car and the machine gun car were rebodied Volkswagens.
Oh, they were okay.
So basically Volkswagen Beetles. Rear engine, air cooled,
very
durable,
common for the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
At
think
the time.
I think in the
75,
70s,
yeah.
Was it the 70s or the 80s? They hit like the 15 millionth Beetle made.
Yeah,
I mean, they made so many of them. They're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
To this day, they're still pretty common to find. Not super hard
Is there
to find.
anything in life that's a dime a dozen anymore? What is a dime a dozen? Like, can you get anything? Can you get any dozen anything for a dime?
There's a bunch of like crypto that's like a dime a
Is
dozen.
it really?
I mean,
okay,
Dogecoin or whatever.
I have no idea what you're talking
Okay,
about.
Cool.
So yeah.
Matilda's Buzz Bomb and
Yes.
was a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. That one obviously looked like a Carmen Ghia.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
The Roman Lion was built on a Fiat 850 Spider chassis.
Okay.
Calamity Jane's Bull was a Corvair.
Oh, it
So
was a
also
Corvair. Yeah.
Interesting
Mhm.
is that it was also rear engine and air cooled. The
Yeah.
Corvair was rear engine and air cooled from Chevy, which is so
Yeah,
interesting.
Okay.
The white resistance army car that chases Frankenstein before crashing was a 65 or 66 Ford Mustang. I could
Okay.
pick that one out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, interestingly,
Yeah.
contrary to popular belief, Frankenstein's Dragon car was not actually a Corvette, but rather a Volkswagen chassis with a kit car body on top
Okay. I was wondering.
with
yeah.
a Corvette-inspired body called
Yes.
the Chalavette, designed by Dick Dean.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
it was a-
yeah. So wow, that's a whole bunch of stuff there.
So everyone always says that it's a C3 Corvette. but
Kinda
it's
looks like it,
It
yeah.
looks almost
Yeah,
identical to
yeah.
it without obviously
Yeah.
the alligator spine. But it's actually
Yeah, you
a
gotta love this movie.
Volkswagen
Yeah.
with a kit car on top that is
Yeah.
designed to look like
Yeah.
the Corvette, which
Yeah.
is kind of interesting.
And you could, yeah.
There was also a body kit. This is my obscure knowledge that will never come in handy ever. There was also a body kit called the Corvetti body kit that was
Corvetti.
available for the first generation Mazda RX-7 that basically put a C3
What?
Corvette nose on the front and gave it C3 Corvette taillights.
Really?
I have a video about it on my YouTube channel. It's very, very brief because I think they sold 800 of the kits, but none of them are accounted for. No one has the kit.
No, it's weird.
It's
yeah.
just like this old Japanese option magazine.
Yeah.
It was big
Yeah.
in Japan because they didn't have Corvettes.
Well, yeah, and I remember kit cars are the reason why I went to automotive school. That
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
absolute reason why I went to learn about cars and how cars work and all that because I wanted to build a kit car.
Yeah.
So talk about going the roundabout way. I actually went and got a certificate, automotive certificate. I think it was almost 2 years to get my automotive certificate to learn how cars got put together because I wanted to put together a kit car. Haven't done it yet, but want to.
Yeah.
So thinking like the what were we talking
The
about?
General Lee?
The General
The
Lee.
Panther
That would be a
platform General Lee.
yes. That would be a fun thing
What
to
we
do.
should do is we should build our General Lee out of a Lincoln Town Car, like your dead dad used to have.
Oh yeah, right.
Because it would have air suspension.
Oh really?
Yeah, we could. Well, if we found a module that controlled it, we could slam it to
there
the
you
ground.
go. Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
If you
That'd
ever
be
see a
pretty cool
Lincoln
looking.
Town Car and the trunk is dragging on the ground,
Yeah.
You're either in Harlem or the
Right.
airbags have completely blown out in the rear
Okay.
air suspension.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
So we do have some. So those are the cars basically. They're basically Volkswagens, which is so funny to me
yeah.
because they're like, oh, they'll hit 200 miles an hour, and it's like, dude, this is a Volkswagen Bug with a fiberglass shell on
right.
top.
Exactly. And you notice they sped up the film.
Oh yeah. So I think that's in the trivia here.
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely some trickery and but yeah, seeing them bounce around like that. I mean, the Beetles were so resilient. That's why they use them for dune buggies. If you're unaware, dune buggies are literally body taken off.
Exactly. Dune buggies are cool.
And it's cool to see the Carmen Ghia. Out of all these cars, the only one I've driven was the Carmen Ghia.
Right, it's a very cool.
I drove a Carmen Ghia 2 summers ago now. It was orange. It had like it was so cool. It was a convertible too.
Yeah, Carmen Ghias I think are cool. I always liked them. Always. But I like the Beetle too. I mean, like the
I
Beetle.
hate to get into a wreck in a Carmen Ghia.
Yeah, that would be awful. That would be awful.
It's all one body panel. There's no seams.
What?
If you ever look
really?
at a Carmen Ghia, there's the hood cut out, right?
Yeah.
But it's all welded together. It's all one piece.
Huh.
So if you crunch up a fender, you have to cut, which is, whatever.
Yeah.
But we do have some trivia brought to you by, but in no way sponsored by IMDb.
Okay, sounds good.
David, what was it?
David Carradine?
Carradine.
Yeah, Carradine.
Refused to wear leather. So the costume designer, Jane Rum, had to make Carradine's iconic black outfit out of another fabric that looked just like leather. So he refused to wear leather, which I don't blame him for all those.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire movie, he's in one outfit until the very end.
And it's sunny. It's probably California. Most of it, 99.9% of it, looks like it takes place in California. And they spent $14 on the entire movie. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't blame him either about that.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Both Sylvester Stallone and David Carradine did much of their own driving. In addition, the producer Roger Corman drove in scenes that were shot on public streets, since the custom-built cars used in the movie were not street legal, and the film's stunt drivers did not want to be caught driving them by the police.
Wow.
So we very much have a gumball rally scenario where they didn't shut down streets. They didn't get their bumgall rally, where they didn't shut down streets, and they just did. Oh no, I was thinking of Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh
where
yeah,
they
right.
actually like hit someone's car.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, they did.
That was
Which
crazy.
also was that 75?
Maybe
That was in that maybe 76. It was in that era for sure.
It was definitely in the 70s.
So kind of interesting that this is again very guerrilla filmmaking to keep that budget down.
Definitely.
Very interesting. Next one. The cars didn't run most of the time, so they had to be pushed down hills in order to get them to move. Moreover, the cameras used to film the cars were undercranked in order to perpetuate. Jeez, I can't read. Perpetuate the illusion that they were moving faster.
Yeah.
So basically,
undercranking is definitely.
It's basically speeding up the film.
Yep, it is.
Because when you take less pictures but play it back at a faster rate, it has the illusion because there's technically more gaps between the action.
It has the illusion.
I guess that's the way I could describe it.
And sometimes you can get away with it, especially if it's slight and all of that. But most of the time, it looks
Charlie Chaplin. Think of the old Charlie Chaplin movies where it's like dan, 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 and he's like moving all fast and like
yeah. Exactly.
And you see it a lot in car movies, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just because it is a way to achieve cars looking like they're faster.
Yep.
But you look in the background and you're like, oh, that person is blinking 80 times in 1 second.
Yeah.
Like,
And overcranking is when they use that for slow motion.
Right.
So overcranking is when, and that's when they used to do that, where they would crank the camera.
So you take more pictures.
You take more pictures, and then when you play it back at 24 frames per second, which is the standard film speed, it's it takes twice long.
Is it still 24 frames a second?
Pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like so much stuff is either 60 or just 30.
Well, some stuff has gone to 60, some is 30, but the standard is 24p. So you'll see that
24.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, you'll see that a lot. Most of the time it's 24 frames. And Super 8 film was 18 frames a second. So that was always the big difference.
Interesting.
It was 18. So.
Next up, Mary Warnov, who plays Calamity Jane, did not know how to drive a car. So a stunt driver did all the actual driving for her in the movie, and for the close-ups, she was sat in the car being towed behind a truck.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of interesting that be in a car movie and not even have your driver's license.
It was funny because I recognized her and I was like, where have I seen her before? She actually was in a really, really awful movie called Blood Theater. Oh. It is a terrible movie, one of the worst movies I've ever seen next to Rush. And it was really just an awful movie. And she, acted very poor. She did a much better job in this movie. Yeah,
interesting.
Absolutely. So, anyway,
But yeah, I thought that was. I feel like that happened in another movie we watched where the main actor didn't even have a driver's license.
That was probably Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan, yeah.
Lohan, not Lohan.
Next up, according to Roger Corman, several of the custom cars featured in the movie were later sold to car museums for considerably more than it cost to build them.
I'm sure.
I read an article that the car museum down in Orlando has the alligator Frankenstein car.
Really?
That's
which cool.
Also, I believe they have the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang original screen used car.
Wow, that would be fun to see. That would be very cool.
I think it's just outside of Universal. There's there's a car museum, like a movie car museum, just like Volo.
Okay.
But they have a lot of the original stuff.
Very cool.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
The racetrack used at the opening track scene and grandstands is the Ontario Motor Speedway near Los Angeles.
Oh.
So kind of interesting.
Okay, yeah.
I was really hoping that it was going to be the same racetrack that we went to. That was then featured in every movie, the Fontana Speedway.
Yep. Yeah, that was cool to be there and be up in the stands.
Yeah.
Watching the cars go around. That was a lot of fun.
We'll be back there at some point.
Definitely.
Last one, I found this one really interesting. The car in which President Frankenstein and Annie drive away in after their wedding is a Richard Oakes Nova kit car, actually based on the Volkswagen Beetle chassis, but obviously not the body. These were available in kit form for many years, starting in the mid-'70s. Did you recognize the car?
I did. Because
from Cannonball Run 2.
Yes, from Cannonball Run 2, because it had the top that came down.
Yeah, very
futuristic
weird.
car.
Yeah.
It was all woo.
Yeah.
Hoo-wee, look at that. It's got a top
but
that comes
realized
out.
Cannonball Run 2 was after this.
Was it?
Yeah, because the Cannonball Run 1 was 81.
Bumgall Rally.
Bumgall Rally. So I thought that was interesting that they used this. A car I had never heard of has now made 2 screen appearances in kind of cult classic movies.
It is one of those rare. You do see them on a lot of top 10 lists on YouTube where it's like, ooh, crazy cars, and then it's the car that has the actual entire roof comes off of the car. Basically, yeah. So interesting.
So that's all I have for you.
Okay.
Would you watch it again? Or would you change the channel? Sorry.
Would I change the channel?
We got our own prompt.
It depends on if I was upstairs watching it, it would be really weird because of course it would be the scene when everyone's getting a massage and they're all nude, and then the neighbors would come over and stuff. They'd be like, "What are you watching?" Yeah, right. You'd be like, "What are you watching?"
Yeah.
Now, but if it was just one of the other parts of the movie, I would leave it on, but I wouldn't necessarily watch it. It's, it was okay.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't change the channel. I don't think I'd sit down and watch it and stop what I was doing, but I definitely. I think it's very interesting. I think for lack of anything else, it's an interesting look into the past now.
It is. Like you said, the retrofuturism.
Yeah,
retrofuturism was really fun to watch. That's, oh my gosh. You go back to the 70s, late 70s, early 80s movies with retrofuturism. Oh my gosh, so much fun to see what they thought the future was going to be like. And I love right now, especially because it's 2022.
Yeah, especially because they're like, oh, in the year 2000. It's like, oh, that was
that was supposed to be the Jetsons car. That was not a good imitation. But anyway, it was supposed to be like this super. Yeah. So here's a note to filmmakers. Set things way off in the future. Yeah. Like way off.
Well, to be fair, 25 years in the future.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, because actually they did make a sequel in 2017.
Yeah.
Called Death Race 2025 or 2050 It was Death Race
No.
2050. Yeah, it looks horrendous.
Okay.
But I mean, I was like, oh yeah, 2050. That's so far away. But that was the
Right.
same distance.
Yeah, exactly. From right now. So would you change channel? Would you?
I already said.
You
No.
did?
Yeah, I said I wouldn't change the channel, but I wouldn't stop what I was doing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't stop what you were doing. Yeah, exactly. I would be the
I wouldn't
same.
sit
I wouldn't
down and you know.
No, I wasn't.
I enjoyed it enough, and it has that sort of cult classic, sort of campy feel.
Yeah.
Almost like the movie Airplane type feel, at least
Yeah.
for me. Completely different vibe.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah. Absolutely, very campy, very
Campy, kind of tongue in cheek,
and
and like
the kills are really actually very
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
They're kind of like they're not, and the people get. People like when they get hit, they fly through the air and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
It's-
really? Yeah.
What's interesting is that it's not very gory until it absolutely is.
right? And then
Like the
it's-
guy getting his head run
yeah,
over.
yeah, exactly.
Which
yeah.
they cut to for maybe 0.8 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. A couple
And
frames,
then,
and
yeah.
that's about it. And it is, and it's hilarious. And you're right; it's not that gory until it is, and then it's way gory, like way off the scale gory.
Yeah.
So exactly, and I think it was too. It was fun that when he takes off, David Carradine takes off his mask. He's not really like ugly at all. He's perfectly, it looks perfect, and
You probably don't even want to see me. It's like, shut
yeah,
up, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny, but
But anyway,
that's
so
yeah.
that's Death Race 2000. I
Okay,
think that was a
definitely.
solid pick.
Yeah, that was fun, and I saw it on there a while back, and I was like, we got to do this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Very very fun.
That was definitely on my list for a long time too.
Was
of
it?
movies we
Okay.
should do, and
Yeah.
I think we will do the newer Death Race too, because that's the
Yeah,
one I
we
grew
can
up
do
with.
that. Well, and we saw the cars at Volo.
Yeah,
we saw some of the
that's a
Death
cool
Race
thing,
cars
too.
at Volo, which
I have
was
that
really neat.
picture, which I have a horrendous stomach ache in that picture.
Oh, that's right.
I
forgot about
I had
that.
a stomach ache that whole time we went, and then
Yeah.
we went again,
Yeah,
and I had like a PTSD stomach ache
I'm sure.
because I
I'm
remembered
sure.
having a stomach ache,
Yep.
and that was like as
It
a
does
kid.
happen.
I was
That
maybe in
happens.
like 4th or 5th grade at that point.
Yep.
Yep. That was like the first like major stomach ache I had. No, I have stomach aches every day. I'm like, it's just part of life.
Well, and you do though. You get PTSD because you're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm here again, and then all of a sudden your stomach starts fluttering, and then when your stomach flutters, then you don't feel good. Then it's like this perpetual thing. It's just kind of a
Yeah.
cycle that just grows and grows, and you're like, oh, I don't feel good at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
So, are you ready for our next movie?
What is the next movie?
Our next movie is a pretty hard departure from this.
Okay.
However, I feel like it kind of fits in.
Okay.
So it's called Apex. It's on Amazon Prime.
Apex.
It is
Apex.
the history and development of the hypercar.
Oh.
So
okay.
we're talking Koenigsegg's, Bugattis.
Yeah.
In the last decade and a half, this new era of cars
Yep.
has happened.
Yeah.
Where
True.
they're 1,000 horsepower, 255 mile an hour
Yep.
cars. And Koenigsegg and Bugatti have gone back and forth of who has the fastest car. It was 253. Then Koenigsegg did like 257. And so it's a 2016 documentary
Okay.
about the development of how hypercars became. And these are like $1 million cars, multi-million-dollar cars.
Right. Yeah.
So I it's very much a departure. It is a documentary. However, this is what the future actually is. Where Death
true.
Race
Yeah,
was
okay,
like,
all right.
oh, they're gonna go 200 miles an hour. Well, we had cars in the early 2000s doing 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Were they Volkswagen chassied alligators? No, but
Yeah.
it
Well,
actually
yeah.
came to fruition. Really, in the early 90s, there were cars that were starting to hit 200.
Yeah. Okay.
But
all right.
really, I mean, in the 2000s, it jumped by 50 miles an hour to 253, which is
Yeah,
insane.
that's insane.
And I
That's
believe
really fast.
Koenigsegg has a car right now that'll do 300. But then they did a test run and it hit like 316 or something. But then it came out that they didn't calibrate something right.
316.
Yeah, something
That's
like that.
nuts.
I forget what it was. Don't quote
That's
me
like
on that at
land
all.
speed
Don't even
record,
listen to
man.
me. Shut this off. Get out of your Kia Forte and walk home.
Wow, Kia Forte
Um,
again. Shout out to Kia
shout
Forte.
out Kia Forte.
Yeah.
Shout out, actually, the Kia Forte GT2 is a great car, and the Kia Forte GT in manual, 6-speed manual, is a fantastic car too.
You like that? I mean, like you say. I mean, it's the great every car. It's
Yeah.
the great. That's
but anyway, so yeah, our next movie is going to be an
All right.
Amazon movie.
Amazon Apex, right?
It might be an Amazon original. I'm not sure. It's called Apex.
Called Apex Seal. and it's
Jeez, no.
no, it's not. Not the seal on
I
the
think it's
rotary
like Apex: The Rise of the Hypercar or something like
engine.
that.
Okay, all right. I'll have to look that up, and we'll.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yep.
If you're listening on Spotify and iTunes, check us out on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, check us out on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get podcasts. But we'll see you next episode.
All right. Bye bye.